my name is Krista. I use they, them pronouns, and this is my exhibition titled Hallowed Be Thy Name. So I came up with the idea for this exhibition because I was growing increasingly frustrated with the kind of rhetoric that was being pushed about queerness, especially in regards to religion. And I kind of wanted to critique that a bit. And yeah, that evolved into this idea of, instead of just responding to that kind of bigotry, having this place and making a place where queer people could feel safe and loved and heal some of that kind of religious trauma that so many people go through. So that kind of led me to this. I'm really interested in Gothic architecture, and so that is where the idea began. And I started thinking about queer moments of history, of liberation, and thinking about them as kind of parables that you learn from, and what it might look like to have stained glass windows of those stories and regard those activists as saints for all their sacrifices and dedication. So yeah, thinking not only about kind of tragedy that they went through, but also just being so inspired by everything that they overcome and their just absolute unwavering dedication to doing the right thing. So that's where these kind of came from. This window right here is for the Stonewall Uprising, and then the one on the right is for ACT UP. And I made a brochure with kind of really brief queer history that goes into some of these windows and symbols, and it's available outside if you would like to learn more. So moving on from those windows, I was also thinking about things that brought queer people agency, and that led to kind of these two windows in the front and back. So these symbols that are kind of dispersed around the pieces are symbols that have brought agency. So whether it's queer people being able to identify each other in spaces in a safe way without kind of outing themselves to other people, or symbols of pride, symbols of belonging, those kind of things. And then when I was making these stained glass windows, I was thinking a lot about kind of the act of taking something that is normally stained glass, which is beautiful, but it's rigid and cold, into this kind of fabric that can kind of move around and wiggle, and brings comfort. That was kind of an act of queering the window in that sense. And then I also wanted to just really emphasize community and belonging and interconnectedness. And that's where these kind of forms, root-like forms on the bottom of the windows came in. And I imagined them kind of like growing down from the windows and towards the center of the table, which brings us to the next piece, which is, again, centering community, also thinking about removing the hierarchy that's really kind of prevalent in church, and centering the community. So there's 13 place settings around the table, obviously a reference to the Last Supper, but each plate is provided by a member of my queer chosen family. They were very, very nice to lend me their actual plates that they eat from for 2 months to be displayed in public. That's very sweet of them. So yeah, just imagining all of us having dinner together. A lot of these people live in different parts of the country, so yeah, centering community, and just, you know, reflecting on that all of us are a part of this and all of us are important. And then let's see, the next kind of pieces that come in are the weavings on the back wall. I was thinking about kind of hidden queer histories in uh, Christianity, and a lot that would come up would be Saint Sebastian and Joan of Arc. So if you don't know, a lot of kind of queer people who are attracted to men um, reference Saint Sebastian and this painting in particular that's depicted in that weaving as kind of a moment of sexual awakening for them, because it's a very homoerotic painting, and I just love this idea that the church was like unknowingly fostering these awakenings. So I was thinking about how to kind of queer the image of Saint Sebastian, and his symbol is the arrow. He was impaled by arrows, and that felt really cruel to me, to make that his symbol. So in the weaving, there's an arrow, but it's been kind of contorted and twisted so that it can't harm him anymore. And just this kind of wiggliness that I've got going around the room, and these kind of, yeah, reaching, long extending tassels that are kind of like bodily, that are reaching towards each other. And then with Joan of Arc, there's actually theories that she could have possibly been trans, which, it's kind of hard to have that conversation with somebody who can't speak for themselves anymore. But it's based on, I think, yeah, a good argument, because during her trial, not only were they putting her on trial for saying that she could speak to God, which was a big no-no back then, but also because she wore men's clothes, and not just in battle. And so they were always asking her, like, why are you doing this? Please wear women's clothes. We won't persecute you if you do so. And she refused up until her death. So I just thought it was really powerful that someone like me standing in this moment right now could relate to someone like that. So yeah, and then that, I guess, brings us to these pieces. So thinking about a church and these kind of like rituals that are a lot about interconnectedness, and remembering and being thankful for each other. So with the beads, with the candles, so I don't know if you know this, but you can't light candles in a gallery. So that became kind of a challenge in this show, was how I was going to get that kind of that same ritual feeling, and make allusion to these candles without the fire element. And the fire element feels so like sacred, like there's just something about fire that has a soul to it. So I was really struggling with how to go about it. But then I landed on this idea of kind of a combination of prayer bead and prayer candle. So if you haven't interacted with it yet, I hope you may stop by and interact. Each bead symbolizes a moment of queer joy or a queer person that you're thankful for, whether in your life or in history. So the idea is throughout the run of the show, you'll start to see the accumulation of these. And this idea that, life continues on through others and through our love for each other. And then I have this baptismal font. I was thinking about the idea of baptism and worthiness, and queer worth, and asserting that queer worth, but also a little bit of a subversion of the kind of rhetoric, the harmful rhetoric of like queer people converting other people to queerness. So it's a subversion of that. It's also thinking about this idea of like washing the sins away, but maybe not your own, maybe sins that have been committed against you. And then I think the last kind of element are the gargoyles on the outside. You can't see them right now, but Gargoyles are kind of one of my favorite elements of Gothic architecture, and they just felt really queer to me because they're this like otherly being. Sometimes they're dogs, cats, bats, different kind of hybrid creatures, and they weren't really like a Christian symbol. They were just kind of adopted into the Christian church. So I was thinking about how to queer a gargoyle even further. So I have a gargoyle with a harness and a gargoyle in drag. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Any questions for, oh yeah. Any questions for Krista? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.